chapter 6. Everything's okay? Everything's clear? طيب. باب تفسير التوحيد وشهادة ألا إله إلا الله, which means an explanation of the Tawheed and the testimony La ilaha illallah, which is here. After all of this, somebody might still misunderstand the meaning of the Tawheed, thinking that the Tawheed is just to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator and the provider and so on, like many people would think. So he brings this chapter with the evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to explain clearly what is the real meaning of La ilaha illallah. So mention the first verse. أولئك الذين يدعون يبتغون إلى ربهم الوسيلة أيهم أقرب ويرجون رحمته ويخافون عذابه إن عذاب ربك كان محذورا. Those whom they call upon, those people then when they call other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Jesus the son of Mary, the angels or anyone, they desire for themselves means of access to their Lord as to which of them should be nearest, and they, meaning those who they call other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hope for His mercy and fear His torment. Verily the torment of your Lord is something to be afraid of. This ayah for those who call unto other than Allah. If they're calling unto a messenger of Allah or a pious man or an angel, this messenger and this angel and this pious man, they themselves, they seek to be near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are not the ones to be called. It's people they need to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. They take them as a wasila, as a mean. They themselves, they take their actions and their dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is to refute those who would call unto other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thinking that they can bring benefit to them or push away harm. It also shows how the Anbiya, the prophets, had the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's mentioned, and how they seek the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next verse, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي فَإِنَّهُ سَيَهْدِينَ وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً بَاقِيَةً فِي عَقِبِهِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. This is the meaning of La ilaha illallah. And remember when Ibrahim alayhi salam said to his father and his people, verily I am innocent of what you worship, except Him, who did create me, and verily He will guide me. And He made it a word lasting among His offspring, that they may turn back, meaning to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam said to his people and to his father? إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ. I free myself, I distant myself from what you are worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is La ilaha, the first part of La ilaha illallah, that he has to disbelieve in what they are believing in, distance himself from what they are believing in. إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. إِلَّا اللَّهِ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي, the one that created me. See how La ilaha illallah is explained in the words of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he distanced himself from what they are worshipping besides Allah, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that created him, reminding them that he's worshipping the one that created them, and he's the one that gave them guidance. وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً, and he made it a word, a long everlasting word, which is the word of La ilaha illallah. Here clearly in the verse of the Quran explains the meaning of the Quran. So when someone says La ilaha illallah means that we believe in the existence of Allah, that He's the creator, the sustainer, we tell them here's the Quran explains the meaning of La ilaha illallah, that it means the one to be worshipped, the one to be turned to, so it should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and that a person has to deny all false deities that is being worshipped besides Allah. He has to deny it, he has to distance himself away from it, otherwise he is not saying La ilaha illallah in the proper way. And this is the explanation of the Tawheed. This is the explanation of the Tawheed, distancing oneself, denying, disbelieving. We have to commit disbelief. A believer has to disbelieve. Disbelieve in what? In anything that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he has to believe that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one worthy of worship. So we have both in our hearts, disbelief and belief. But disbelief in anything that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next verse, اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله. That they, meaning the Jews and the Christians, took their rabbis and their monks to be their lords besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this verse actually has a story behind it, in which Adi ibn Hatim radiallahu anh, when this verse was revealed, he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he told him that, O Prophet of Allah, we did not worship them, meaning the rabbis and the monks and so on. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, didn't they used to make what is halal for you and what is haram for you? He said, yes. He said, this is how you worship them. And this is true, this is a fact. Who is the one that says what is permissible and what is not permissible? Is the rabbis and monks and so on, the leaders. And as a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them that they took them as lords besides Allah. Why? Because the only one that has the right to say what is halal and what is haram is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And that's why when we say this is halal or this is haram, it's not according to our opinions or intellects, it's according to the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person has to make sure that he does not lie and bring fabrications when it comes to what is halal and what is haram. So this is also explains what the meaning of La ilaha illallah means. It means that the one that has the obedience and the submission in what is halal and what is haram is who? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Not a human being, not anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that whoever obeys a makhluk, a creation of Allah, in matters of making what is halal and what is haram, like this, making the human being the absolute source of knowing what is halal and what is haram, that means he has taken this human being as a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that has the right to be worshipped, has the right to be obeyed, and has the right to tell the people what is halal and what is haram in the absolute sense. Also, it refutes the belief of those who associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to purify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is not to have partners and so on. The next verse, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, this is all explanations of La ilaha illallah. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And of mankind are some who take for worship others besides Allah as rivals to Allah. They love them as they love Allah, but those who believe love Allah more than anything else. This ayah needs for us to ponder over it. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا. Some of the people, they take other than Allah أَنْدَادًا, as partners. يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. They love them كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ, the way that they love Allah. That means disbelievers, they are loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how they are disbelievers? How they are condemned in the Quran? Because they love the partners the same way that they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means the love should be sincerely and purely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This love of ibadah, not the natural love a person to another, but the love of ibadah, the love of ta'zeem, the love of exaltation, that it's only befits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is not permissible for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So see how they have been condemned, that they had this associating partners with Allah. That means they have love of Allah, but they have the love of these awliya, with these partners. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That the believers, they are more when it comes to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Either it means that they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than these believers love their partners that they worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it means that the believers, they are more loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than anything else, because this is the meaning of the Tawheed, is the love, the perfect love. The meaning of La ilaha illallah is to worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with perfect love and perfect submission, and not to associate partners with Allah. And that it shows that the disbelievers, they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a great love, but that was not enough for them to be in the fold of Islam, till they make this love sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and that shirk is dhulm, is injustice, and that they will be punished in the day of judgment and so on. And then the hadith في الصحيح عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال من قال لا إله إلا الله وكفر بما يعبد من دون الله حرم ماله ودمه وحسابه على الله. He who professed that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, and made a denial of everything which the people worship besides Allah, his property and blood become inviolable, and his affair rests with Allah. So that means this is the explanation of La ilaha illallah. We see that hadith, some hadith would mention something in general, and other hadith would mention something in more details. There's no contradiction. The people of innovations, the people of deviation, the peoples of desire, they would pick and choose what would fit their opinions. So they would take some ahadith and leaves others. But for the people of Ahl Sunnah, they make their principles and their opinions based on the revelation from Allah, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The hadith explains one another, the Quran verses explains one another, and there's no contradiction. So the hadith that says the meaning of to say La ilaha illallah, a person will enter Jannah, this hadith comes and explains more what is La ilaha illallah means. That he says La ilaha illallah and denies, disbelieves in all of the things that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the Muslim is. And that means saying it by itself is not enough unless the person denies everything that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that would be explained more in the chapters to come as he mentioned. Clear? So this is meanings of La ilaha illallah. So this is the meaning in which a person is supposed to call others to believe in. That La ilaha illallah, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship. And that people, if they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, the sustainer, the provider, and that's it, is not enough. And it's not enough for them to even love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless they worship Him alone. They seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. In all of their ibadah, in their dua, in their salah, in their good deeds, in everything. Right? So it is not enough for them to just have some belief unless they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. The next chapter, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you patience, inshallah. It's not wasted. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to be wasted. باب من الشرك لبس الحلقة والخيط ونحوهما لرفع البلاء أو دفعه. Now, the 6 chapters before, it's more general terms about Tawheed and to avoid shirk. Now more specific things to be mentioned about matters of shirk, that we need to refer it back to the general terms and to learn it so that we avoid it. And these things, as we would hear, something that among the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, those who fell in this trap of falling into these matters of shirk, whether it's minor or major, by the sayings of the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So definitely, as we heard before, this is worse. If it's a minor shirk, it's worse than major sins. It means we have to make the da'wah and the call for people to avoid all forms of shirk and to purify their tawheed, to be away from shirk, to be away from innovations in the religion, and to be away from sins. But the worst thing that a person can do to himself is to fall into shirk, whether it's major or minor. So the title of the chapter is to wear a ring, twine, or anything similar to them for prevention or lifting of harm or affliction is an act of shirk. These are acts of shirk. Is it based on our opinion or intellect? No. It has to be based on evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. The first verse, قُلْ أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِنْ أَرَادَنِي اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ هَلْ هُنَّ كَاشِفَاتُ ضُرِّهِ أَوْ أَرَادَنِي بِرَحْمَةٍ هَلْ هُنَّ مُمْسِكَاتُ رَحْمَتِهِ قُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ يَتَوَكَّلُ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. Which means, say, tell me then the things that you invoke besides Allah. If Allah intended some harm for me, could they remove His harm? Or if He, Allah, intended some mercy for me, could they withhold His mercy? Say, sufficient for me is Allah. In Him those who trust, meaning the believers, must put their trust. These are things that negates either the complete Tawheed or the Tawheed from its origin. We mentioned that before. How can it negate the Tawheed from its origin? If someone believes that a ring is in itself pushes away the harm and brings what is good, this negates the Tawheed from its origin. Because the ring is not the creator of what is good, it is not the creator of what is evil. If a person believes in that, that negates the Tawheed from its original meaning. But most of the people, they believe that the ring or the amulets and this and that are means of cure, means of pushing away harm. This is a minor shirk if a person believes in that, worse than major sins. Why? Because means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created on the face of earth are of two types. Things that are known physically by experiments and by things that are well known, like medicine, like eating to push away hunger, things of that nature, it's already known. It's okay for the person to take these means. And there are the religious means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever is obedient to Allah, Allah will make ways out for him. The way to cure is to recite Quran on one's harm or wound or whatever there is from the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ. These are means, although we do not see it physically happening with our own eyes, but it's means because it's mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Other than that, whoever takes a mean that it's not known in the world like this as a mean, or something in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he falls into the shirk. Same thing, people believing in the stars or believing in the amulets. What is the amulet going to do to the person? What is a ring going to do to a person? It's nothing. So it's all ways of depending on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what the ayah says. That say these things that you call unto other than Allah. If Allah wants harm for you, who can push it away from you? Nobody. Or if He wants mercy for you, no one can push away that from you. Qul hasbi Allah. This is the life of a Muslim. Hasbi Allah meaning, Allah is sufficient for me. I do not need no one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do not need no one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the real tawakkul and putting the trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because everything needs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why should you need anything and everything that is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We should only need the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَلَيْهِ يَتَوَكَّلُ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. He is the one that people put their trust on, meaning the believers. So also it shows how this is in a form or a context of debate with the disbelievers, and how to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone in all of our affairs. And these things that people wear of ways of cure, if it's not in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then it's something that is a matter of shirk. The next hadith explains the matter even clearer. And we need to see that we're not making up things here. This is the deen of Allah, that it was present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the early generations of Islam. It's just people changed after that. People start making up things. And it's definitely people have benefit behind these things. People make money, businesses, whatever there is. So they benefit from these forms of shirk. Imran ibn Husayn radiallahu anhu narrated, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رأى رجلا في يده حلقة من صفر فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هذه؟ قال من الواهنة. فقال انزعها فإنها لا تزيدك إلا وهنا فإنك لو مت وهي عليك ما أفلحت أبدا. It's hadith reported by Imam Ahmad and others, and it's an authentic hadith. The Prophet ﷺ once saw a man with a brass ring on his hand and asked him, what is this? Ring made of brass, or a bracelet. The man replied, to overcome the weakness of old age. It's helping him to the weakness of old age. Wahina. He said, remove it. The Prophet ﷺ told him, remove it. for it can only add to your weakness. Should death overtake you while you are wearing it, you would never succeed. See how severe it is? And he's just wearing something made of brass. Why he's wearing it? Is it something that is physically way of cure? No. Is it something that is mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? No. That means it's a minor shirk. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, مَا أَفْلَحْتَ أَبَدًا. You would never be successful if you die in that state. Right? Because he dies in the state of matters of shirk. So it shows clearly in this hadith that wearing bracelets or rings or whatever there is, seeking cure from wearing these things, it's all forms of shirk. And it shows that it's forbidden for a Muslim to seek cure in matters that is haram even. Drinking alcohol for a person to get rid of stones in his kidney, for example. It's not permissible. If it's haram, then it's haram. There are ways of cure that is halal. Also, it shows the virtues of forbidding the evil in which the Prophet ﷺ told them to take it away. And the harm of shirk in this life and in the hereafter. And that minor shirk is worse than major sins. Minor shirk is worse than major sins. And that the Prophet ﷺ also shows his manners. He asked him first. He did not accuse him immediately. He asked him, and this is the etiquettes and the mannerism that a Muslim should learn. And he said to the Prophet ﷺ, what is this? So he explained to him, and when he answered, then the Prophet ﷺ told him, take it away, and he showed him the harm of what he's doing. And that how the Prophet ﷺ was very clear to him, did not make it loose, so that he does not make the person upset. You will be deceiving him that way. You have to explain it in the clear way, in the nice way, to warn the person from such a major worse than a major sin, which is something that is a minor shirk. The next hadith even explained the matter clearer. مَنْ تَعَلَّقَ تَمِيمَةً فَلَا أَتَمَّ اللَّهُ لَهُ وَمَنْ تَعَلَّقَ وَدَعَةً فَلَا وَدَعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ. Which means whoever wears talisman or an amulet would never see his wish fulfilled by Allah, and whoever hangs a seashell would never get peace and rest. These are things that people used to do in the Jahiliyyah, and some people till nowadays still hang these things, seeking that it would be a form of cure, whether it's ignorantly or knowingly. This is something that shows clearly the Prophet ﷺ forbidding people from doing that. At-tama'im or amulets, things that the people would hang, whether it's on their neck or on their doors or in their cars or whatever there is. And again, it's not a physical mean or religious mean. That means it's a matter of shirk. Whether it has Quran only in it or whether it doesn't have Quran only in it, it's something that should be definitely avoided. Definitely, to be honest in explaining the matter, if it's only Quran, readable Quran, some of the ulama, they said it's permissible. Right? But if it leads to other forms of shirk, and it does, then it should be avoided completely. And most of these things, it is not just purely Quran. And we have to be very careful. And it's not the way of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ never ordered and so on. And you would find people making so much dangerous things to it. Some of these things, if you open it, you would find Quran, but without a word, with a word missing, that would give a meaning of kufr in it. Because these people, they deal with jinn. And the jinn would not help a human being unless he commit kufr. And unless he curses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, Ayat al-Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum, they take the la away. They do these types of things. And most of the things that if you open it, you find signs and words that are weird. It's basically to the chief of the jinn in the neighborhood. And these are all kufr. Kufr, disbelief. Because no one, the jinn would help him unless he had cursed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unless he, those sorcerers, they do acts of kufr like tearing the Quran, putting in najasat in the bathroom. They would do these things for the jinn to help them. So that's why the sahir or the sorcerer is a kafir. Because he would not be helped unless he would do these things. And the Muslim should have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. That's why dhikr is a way of cure and protection for the Muslim. The morning and the evening dhikr, Ayat al-Kursi and so on. As some said, when a person is possessed by a jinn and he's doing weird things, right? The jinn, they get the same way of actions if a Muslim recites Ayatul Kursi. And the jinn will gather around this jinn and say, what's wrong with him? They would say a human being had possessed him in the sense that he recited Ayatul Kursi, so this jinn is going crazy as a result of that. It burns them. So that's why the dhikr is the fortress of the Muslim, to be constantly in the dhikr of Allah, because there are so many enemies that they try to get to the person. And that's why those who are always in dhikr, especially the morning and the evening, and making ruqya and Ayatul Kursi, definitely they are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these tama'im and these amulets and these all kinds of things, it should definitely be avoided. By the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the person would get the opposite of what he wishes for as a result of such evil meanings. مَنْ تَعَلَّقَ تَمِيمَةً فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ. There is nothing more direct than this. The hadith says, whoever wears a talisman has committed shirk. So it's not an opinion, it's the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly. So it definitely should be avoided. Huh? This hadith reported by Imam Ahmad and Al-Hakim. This hadith is reported by Imam Ahmad and Al-Hakim, and it's authentic hadith. Man ta'allaqa tamimatan faqad ashrak. Whoever hangs a talisman, he committed a shirk. The other hadith, this hadith mentioned, Ibn Abi Hatim reported about Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, أنه رأى رجلا في يده خيط من الحمى فقطعه وتلا قوله وما يؤمن أكثرهم بالله إلا وهم مشركون. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, we know Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, the keeper of the secrets of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw a man with a piece of twine on his hand. Twine? What is twine? Anybody knows what it's twine? Thread. A piece of thread on his hand. Some people, they do this. They have a thread around their wrist as a protection or cure from fever. So Hudayfa radiallahu anhu cut the twine and read the verse, which means most of them believe in Allah and still practice shirk. Although the verse was referring to the disbelievers, but he quoted this verse, shows that the meaning of it is correct. That some people, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they still commit shirk. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he cut it, which shows the virtues of doing that. And it is definitely a good thing for a person. If you see someone with such a thing, don't leave him in a nice way, right? Don't let it go, because this person is falling into shirk. So you advise him, you show him, you tell him the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This thing, who told you that it benefits you? It's not mentioned in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. What is mentioned is opposite than that. You're committing shirk. And he will be very scared, and he would say he's afraid if he cuts it, the evil, what happens to him, because they scared him away. Tell him, I'll take care of it, don't worry. Let me cut it, I'm responsible. Right? When you take it away from him and you open it, if it's something that is closed, and you open it and you see what's in there and you burn it. And to relieve him from such associating partners with Allah. And it shows the virtues of doing that, because Hudayfa radiallahu anh, he did that. And it's such a virtuous thing for a person to do. So again, it shows these are some of the details of what has been mentioned generally before, matters of shirk. That, see, the Prophet ﷺ said that 1400 years ago. How many people still practicing these ways of shirk that was present in times of Jahiliyyah? Right? Going back to it. Why? Because the shaitan is not relaxed. Shaitan is working diligently to get people outside the fold of the Tawheed by making them fall into these things. And when ignorance prevails, when people are not learning the matters of the Tawheed, then these things happen. And this is another important point, which is, if you don't teach Tawheed, people will fall into shirk. If you don't teach it, and that's why if you look in places where there is nobody's teaching Tawheed, people fall into the shirk, because the shaitan is working and they don't see the shaitan, and they would fall into his trap very easily. That's why if you finish the book, start it again, and finish it and start it again, and from one generation to the other, and you keep on explaining the matters of Tawheed and warning against shirk, and forget about those who people would say, why are you talking about this? Alhamdulillah, there is nobody in the masjid here, for example. Hopefully no one here, for example, is falling into these matters of shirk. So we don't need to learn it. This is all nonsense. We need to learn it to protect ourselves and to turn it and to educate others and to pass it on to other generations, and to keep reminding ourselves Because the shaitan waiting for the forgetfulness so that he would enter to the people, so that he would make them fall into matters of shirk.